How do you guys like the new intro music? I got to hear it. I think it's pretty good. I think Colin does a really good job of bringing the theme, the feel, if you will. I like that type of sound that kind of brings you. It kind of brings you to a place where you just allow your thoughts to run wild. Think of it as like the Miami Vice Crockett theme, something along those lines. But excellent job. And hello to all of you, and welcome to Pontificating with Pete. Yes, this is going to be the format for the next few months. Hope you'll stick with it. Hope you enjoy it. Clearly, somebody enjoyed it enough. Teresa, we love you. Thank you very much. And yes, of course, Steve is here. And we have obviously a lot to talk about. We're going to get right into it in a minute. Obviously, it goes without saying that one of the things that's getting missed right now pertaining to what's going on these college campuses is the fact that there has been this hoarding of billions upon billions of dollars at the most elite universities in the United States. And for what purpose? Well, for corporate special interests like war, like what's going on right now in Gaza, like what's going on right now in Rafah. That's where the rubber meets the road. And when we talk about the hoarding of the money and why I often describe the concept of MMT as basically trying to undo the clogged drain of the way that the money that is printed in this country gets dispersed to a very specific group of people. Well, guess what? These elite institutions do get a nice cut of that pie, pretty substantial to say the least. So without further ado, he is not only an amazing political commentator, he's also a great friend. He's somebody who it's just somebody who, where we come from in the part of the United States, in the Northeast, we really don't pull any punches. You may not like us, but you will always know where we stand. We're very black and white in regards to our positions on very specific policies, what's going on right now. We don't beat around the bush, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I know there are people who like to live in a world where everyone's nice and friendly and gets along. That's not the real world. We live in the real world, and if anybody knows anything about living in the real world, it is Steve Grumbine of the Real Progressives. Welcome to Pontificating with Pete.
Hey, Pete. That's definitely one way of saying it, isn't it?
Well, how else would we say it? That's one of the things that, Jen always says, like, you just got to let me be me. I'm going to say what I'm going to say and let the chips fall where they may. If I'm going to piss off a few people here and there, that is the price that one has to pay for being absolutely transparent. And that is where you build a core constituency of people who really believe in what you're doing and are not just going to toss you aside because they think that you're just going to, whatever rung on the ladder you're trying to climb next is what is going to put you in a position to succeed. Where are we? Because every time we speak, it seems like the world is getting more and more dire. And right now, this is a very dangerous place to be, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that the best place to start, and Colin, let me know as soon as you get the clip, when you look at all of the things that are going on at these elite universities, I think you can draw in the MMT conversation because we still have to explain to people on a regular basis that money is printed first and taxes come after that. So once it's established that the government prints money, why are these elite universities getting not just the private money, but they're getting money from the government as well? What is the connection here? And why is it now, thank goodness, but why is it now finally coming to the surface as to why Harvard has tens of billions of dollars, why Princeton has tens of billions of dollars, why Stanford has tens of billions of dollars, and so on and so forth?
Well, I'm going to tell you two different stories. The first story, which I think is probably the most important one, is a story told by a great scholar who I have tremendous affinity for, named Davarian Baldwin. And Davarian Baldwin focuses on the ivory tower of elite universities, and he actually calls them universities as opposed to universities, because what the universities are doing is they're elite nonprofits. and they are able to acquire land as nonprofits and acquire all the land around them, and then ultimately hire, well, maybe not even hire, maybe just use the state to provide policing services for the university, keep out the ne'er-do-goods who are the people that live in the community anyway, and then simultaneously take huge amounts of monies from Boeing, from Northrop Grumman, from Halliburton, you name it, all the weapons manufacturers, etc. And they set up shop at these universities, and they have students working as interns and other things on these projects that get them even more free R&D. They no tax on the property, etc. And so these become basically tax havens. They don't pay local tax, so the local community doesn't benefit from their existence. And their federal tax doesn't exist either, because guess what? They are nonprofits, so they don't pay that tax. So they just collect huge amounts of money, huge amounts of. So what they're teaching is largely informed by these military contractors, etc. And it's become so epidemic, so criminal, in fact. And most people don't even talk about it. So this is a major theme. And if you're going to learn about this the correct way, I strongly recommend reading his book, In the Shadow of the Ivory Tower, How Universities Are Plundering Our Cities. And they literally keep the community off campus. They're not allowed on there. It's illegal. You're not allowed here. And then they build up all these fancy-dancy, tax-free things for rich kids that come in and lead this posh life, okay? And all at the expense, really, of the communities in which they're in. Instead of being a net benefit to the communities, it is worse. So what ends up happening is these rich kids commit crimes. They point the finger at the poor kids on the other side of the fence. They police the poor kids on the other side of the fence. The rich kids get slapped on the hand. Nothing happens to them. It's an atrocity, and it goes so much deeper than that. I strongly suggest reading this book. It's one of the most eye-opening books of all time. That said, the concept of MMT, I'm going to correct you ever so slightly because I really want you to get this part. And I know that you hate when I do this, but I love you enough to do it for you, okay?
No, it's like learning. It's like learning calculus and physics. You have to constantly be relearning it. It's necessary.
Yes. And this is it's a small but significant detail, okay? You said they print the money. And I know that you probably don't realize quite how important this distinction is, but I'm going to tell you. The government, when they put money into the economy, they never print it. They only spend it into the economy. They never print money and leave it sit in a pile somewhere waiting for a rainy day. It's not like, hey, how much money do we got sitting there? We got 10. No, we need to print more money. That's not how it works. They never care how much they have because they don't have any money. Warren Mosler, who is the father of MMT, would say the government neither has nor doesn't have dollars. It spends them into existence. Okay. So what happens is that they keystroke shit into the accounts at the Fed that then in turn goes into the Treasury's account, who then spends that money to whoever they've written a contract for. And in many cases, it's these universities that get these grants and get these really, really, really nice deals from the government. The government wants a certain thing and they go to the university, and the university, in collaboration and cooperation with our universities, our children are learning, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? But it's not printing money. It never is printing money. In fact, the idea of printing money kind of thwarts the point, the thrust of what MMT does by saying they're printing money. The average person thinks that you got a stack of Benjamins laying there in a corner and that we just printed a bunch of money and it's worthless. Thing is, the federal government always spends on something. They put a contract out there, the people, bid for it, and the government then spends that money, newly created money, not your hard-earned tax dollars. Sorry, folks. It is brand new money every single time, and every single time they tax, it's like a drain at the bottom. They just delete it. They purge what they call reserves, which are just interbanking dollars. Don't worry about that. I probably shouldn't even mention it. But the fact is that taxes delete money, spending creates money, and it's all brand new money. Now, when you look at what these universities do with that money, I think that if we all understood that arrangement, I'll bet you most of us would be out there with pitchforks and torches, because we can't afford to go to college. We're dripping in debt from student debt that they won't release us from. And these universities are making money hand over fist, and they keep jacking and jacking and jacking tuition up and cost of living. Because how do you keep the undesirables out? It's got nothing to do with just making money, because they make money a million different ways. They jack those things up because that's how they keep it exclusive. That's how they make sure that the poors and the working poor and the working class never make it to their cozy little soiree that they're having at the universities. And people get mad when I talk about this, because it's like, but I'm a good person and I got money. Why are you angry at the rich? Or why are you angry at... And it's like, hey, look, this is not about individuals. This is about a system that is there, that is literally harming my family and all my children and all the other people that I know. And it is literally benefiting a handful of people, and it is creating this horrible balkanized society that we live in, where some people are comfortable enough not to care whether the Palestinians are getting slaughtered, because they can only think about Donnie Tiny Hands Trump. They can't think about Genocide Joe. So
I'm actually going to push back on that. I actually think that Trump is just an excuse. I think if this was any other circumstance, they would have figured out a way to justify it. They would have come up with something.
Oh,
there would have been some other excuse to say.
I don't disagree with you at all, Pete.
And I've been seeing it on social media constantly, and they're starting to reveal their hand now, because they know that they're at the end of the line, because they can't keep up this facade. It's not possible. It's just too transparent when you get to a point where you realize that what's been going on for several years is that, especially with how much control neoliberalism has in our, daily lives, especially when it comes to social media influence and the like. It could be Hollywood, it could be things like Instagram and Twitter and what have you. And what I've noticed is there is this immense amount of pressure that is put, especially in the blue regions of the country, that you must go and get a higher education, that you must go to the highest of schools. Don't even think about going to a junior college. Don't even think about going to a trade school. That's not the solution. The solution is, for example, if you're in Pennsylvania, you have to try to get into UPenn. And if you don't get into UPenn, you got to go to one of those fancy liberal arts colleges, like Franklin and Marshall in East Pennsylvania. Those are just examples of, I think, the pressure that has been created for at least a generation, if not longer now. And I wonder if that bubble is bursting. I wonder if people are starting to look at that and realize that, no, it's just one big scam and it doesn't really matter. I mean, is there a level of prestige that comes with getting a political science degree from the University of Michigan versus some other schools? Yes. Is there something to be said for getting a law degree from Stanford versus some other schools? Sure. But you're talking about a microcosm of microcosms. And there are scam after scam after scam in higher education in this country. I learned this the hard way because I ran a small business. I was involved in fundraising for college sports teams around this country. And what I learned is that it didn't matter if I had a better service than what the schools had. What mattered is that the schools wanted to control the flow of the money. That's all that matters. There is nothing else. And now that the general public is starting to see just how disgusting and despicable this really is, that this is just one big scam, I think they have really overplayed their hand here, especially in support of what's going on in Gaza. And now that they have invaded Rafah, it's like, I don't know how much further they think they're going to be able to take this, but I'm just waiting for the straw to finally break the camel's back. I feel like we're getting close to that.
Well, I'll tell you this, that the value of university is in alumni associations. It's in friendships. It's in networking. It's not in the degree, because you can be dumb as a box of rocks, but if mommy and daddy are rich and they got friends, then you're going to do just fine. And that's part of the problem right there. But going to Rafah, we just realized, I mean, I posted this on Instagram earlier, and I think it's really, really tragic, actually. There was a recent UN report. I mean, like recent as an overnight UN report, said over 390 bodies has been discovered at Nasser and Al-Shifa hospitals, including women and children, with many reportedly showing signs of torture and summary executions and potential instances of people being buried alive. Okay, this is what we're dealing with overall. The overarching, you know, battle there is not really about, hey, they didn't give us back our you know, the prisoners or the hostages or whatever. This is about oil underneath of Gaza. This is about literally here's a final solution. Here is a final solution to end this discussion about single state, dual state, whatever. This is 100% about let's finish this job. And people are not acknowledging that. But most of us are awake and seeing it, and we're fighting like our lives depended on it, even though, unfortunately, our lives don't depend on it. And that's part of the problem. We are so removed from some of the most important things that are happening around the world that it's easy to forget that and flip the channel and watch Family Feud or do some other nonsense that most people do because they feel powerless and helpless to do anything. And I think part of that, and this is what I've been railing on lately, and I'm disgusted by people even suggesting I'm wrong. Suggesting that I'm wrong has got me furious. And that is, we do not have a democracy. If we did have a democracy, we would have already been able to shut Genocide Joe down. We would have been able to put enough pressure on Congress to stop this genocide, to stop. And people say, but what could Joe Biden do? Well, start by not fucking giving them weapons. Start by not constantly pumping billions and billions of dollars worth of weapons in there. Stop conducting proxy wars with Russia through Ukraine. And for the people that don't pay attention, and don't recognize straight up that the United States is losing its grip on a lot of what we consider to be the empire, and it is doing what it can to bring Europe down, to keep it as its vassal state, to do its bidding, to literally isolate China. Why? Because China's kicking our ass 7 ways to Sunday. And because we still got to finish up on the Hillary. Every time somebody gets mad at Russia, I see another Hillary supporter. That's all I see.
I didn't even want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up because you did. And I didn't feel it was necessary to do a clip on this, but Bill Maher is sinking to such a level of depravity that I didn't even think was possible. And he does another new rule to top the one he did last week, which was to basically go after, anybody who doesn't think that what's going on, who thinks what's going on in Gaza right now is some type of a genocide, which of course it is. But yes, that's, for his elite bubble. And of course, one of the reasons that I truly believe he does do this is the algorithm boosts his channel for clips on YouTube. There is no question that they do that. And so his latest round of bullshit involved him referencing that Trump colluded with Russia and that he should have been sent to prison and all of this stuff. And all I'm thinking is, Trump doesn't even need to campaign. He just needs these people to talk. And once they talk, Trump becomes, once again, it's like 2016 all over again. He becomes that human Molotov cocktail to thumb the nose at this corporate establishment that wants you to believe that everything in this country is perfectly fine. You're just not working hard enough. You're not working smart enough. You're going to get ahead eventually, that this is your fault, not the fault of the system. The system is operating the way that it should. And you just need to work a little harder. And he really embodies the worst of it. He really does. And of course, he went to Cornell, which, mind you, for those of you who don't know, Cornell is an Ivy League school, but it's considered the redheaded stepchild of Ivy League schools. It is the easiest one to get into. There are tons of colleges throughout the United States that are of higher prestige. They may not be Ivy, but they are much harder to get into. Schools like WashU, Northwestern, and Stanford are infinitely harder to get into than Cornell. But he carries himself in such a ludicrous way as if his shit doesn't stink. I don't like using him as the poster child because, again, it's like ad nauseum at this point. But you really have to wonder, like this elitism has gotten to the point where you almost have to wonder, how do they not see what's going on? Like, do they really pretend that this isn't happening? Or is it really that they're just convinced that when shit really hits the fan, and it's getting pretty close, especially, and we're going to play the clip in a minute, especially with what just happened today at UC San Diego. I mean, my God, at what point does the twig just snap and people are like, you know what? I'm not going to college anymore. I'm not paying my taxes. I'm not playing your game. I don't think it's going to be one person. It's going to be so many people.
Yeah, you know, I hope so. I mean, I hope we at least take it seriously, but this is part of the problem, right? And again, social media really sucks. It really doesn't do what we need it to do, but it's what many of us got. And, you know, you can post important things. Friends will ignore it. Friends won't share it. Friends will sit there and act like you're wrong when you can categorically prove you're not. And that infuriates me too, by the way. I don't mind a good discussion, but I hate when someone's thick and just repeats the same shit back at me and never really listens, because, you know, maybe I'm autistic, maybe I'm something else, I don't know. But I know for a fact, for me personally, I can't let something go when I know it's wrong. When it's wrong, I get a bone in my mouth and I am going to hold on for dear life, and I can't let it go. And I'm sure my health would be better if I could let it go, but I can't let it go. And so I will sit there and I will hold on until someone acknowledges what I'm saying, until they acknowledge that the truth has been laid out before them. And in particular, one of the most important things that we're seeing right now, and this alone, this right here alone, should make everybody just take a minute and say, holy shit, right? You have not seen a single tax increase for all the funding. And when I say funding, I'm going to spell that out in a second. We have not seen a single tax increase for all the funding of the proxy war in Ukraine, nor have we seen a single tax increase for all the billions upon billions upon billions of weapons and other support we have given to Israel. Why is that? Because we know inherently, if we stop trying to fight it, we stop trying to be the cool kid on the block and say, what about inflation, or some other dumb comment. If we sit there and really think about it, we know inherently the reason is that our government literally creates that money and spends it. But what are they doing? They're not sending money to Israel. Israel doesn't need US dollars. What they're doing is they're buying equipment. They're buying weapons, tanks, bombs, you name it, from U.S. weapons manufacturers for a jobs program in the U.S., and then they send all the weapons and stuff over to Israel, okay? So once again, Biden said the quiet part out loud at his State of the Union address. I don't know why my friends that know better don't do better and recognize Genocide Joe for what he is. They don't recognize the fact that this man is literally the catalyst for genocide. And I don't know to what degree or for what purpose the Democratic Party is hell-bent on ensuring genocide. Because right now, they're in charge. Right now, they have the power to not do that. Okay, but Joe Biden is full-throatedly doing it. Now, somebody might say, well, Trump will do it. Well, guess what? This is when we start getting into politics for real. Politics for real is you've got two parties that 150 million% are on the exact same page when it comes to all things capital, when it comes to these geopolitical stories. They are all 100% in lockstep. Where they differ, and this is where things get really dicey, it's all the freaking social issues. It's social engineering. It's all that stuff. And so what ends up happening? This is the unfortunate thing. It gives rise to this anti-woke campaign. And this anti-woke campaign is actually an anti-leftist campaign, because the working class is made up of all kinds of people that have all kinds of grievances that we in solidarity need to be working together to fight back against oppression.
And we really have to stop calling it an anti-left movement. It's an anti-worker movement. That is what they're against, because there is a substantial portion of the working class that backs Trump. And when you look at it from that perspective, it basically just becomes, it's the workers versus the shareholders. That is what our society has become. Now,
That's
of course,
right.
it has grown to such an exponential level that at one time, perhaps between the years of FDR and JFK, we were looking at a balance component of probably 70-30, maybe 65-35 shareholder to workers in terms of value, in terms of influence when it comes to policy, when it comes to the ability to make income. Today, it's got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 90-10, maybe even worse than that. Like, that's how substantial the gap has gotten, to the point in which we have this fleet of billionaires today that can, at the drop of a hat, just decide, okay, I'm going to change the fortunes now. I am going to actually make it so that it's acceptable based on whatever policy we decide as of today is acceptable. But that brings us to a very important clip, which I'm sure you're aware of. When we talk about the uniparty, when we talk about the connecting pieces that bring both parties together, but we all know that when it comes down to it, it is all about the capital party. That is all that matters. And so when the real president of the United States, as I've been telling you for a long time, President Blinken, sits down with former senator and full-blown oligarch Mitt Romney, and they're having this conversation about the justification for censorship, because it's bad PR for Israel if we don't do this. And they're sitting there thinking, this makes sense. So let's play the clip and we'll comment.
Why has the PR been so awful? I know that's not your area of expertise, but you have to have some thoughts on that, which is, I mean, as you've said, why has Hamas disappeared in terms of public perception? An offer is on the table to have a ceasefire, and yet the world is screaming about Israel. It's like, why aren't they screaming about Hamas? Accept the ceasefire, bring home the hostages. It said it's all the other way around.
I can't imagine anybody at this level doesn't have the type of inside information, because we as the general public are a bunch of dupes anyway. But I can look, and the fact that it's the McCain Institute is what makes it even more ridiculous. Now, I mean, the irony of that alone is pretty amazing. But everybody knows, with even a reasonable disposition, knows that what's going on right now is at best a absolutely out of sight, out of mind justification for self-defense. And at its very worst, which is really where it is, this is a deliberate genocide. And what is happening in Rafah as we speak, you cannot deny that that's what's going on. And yet they sit in their very comfortable chairs at a completely military industrial complex funded institution, yes, suggesting that, why can't we get people to admit that Hamas is bad and Israel is good? I don't know, because it's occupied territory and a genocide is being committed by the side you're trying to protect. I mean, I think that that's the reason. I'm probably not that smart. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe it's the benevolence of these two, 60-something, wealthy, aristocrat, bureaucrats, whatever you want to call them. They're just sitting there thinking that this is exactly what people want to hear. What is infinitely more amazing is that they really don't have that much support, and yet they have so much control. And I wonder when the people are going to get their act together. But let's continue.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? How have they and we been so ineffective at communicating the realities there? And
we're on an intravenous feed of information with new impulses, inputs every millisecond. And of course, the way this is played out on social media has dominated the narrative. And you have a social media ecosystem environment in which context, history, facts get lost, and the emotion, the impact of images dominates. And we can't discount that. But I think it also has a very, very, very challenging effect on the narrative.
a small parenthetical point, which is some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd note that's of real interest, and the president will get the chance to make action in that regard.
Did he have a slip of the tongue and say Palestinians instead of Hamas? Because again,
Yes.
it's this crutch that they're just trying to use. It's like Trump. Oh, if Trump gets back in, it's a genocide, but it's going to be a super genocide if he gets in there. So accept the genocide. You have to vote for Hillary. Bernie can't win. Trump got in. Oh my God, the Russians got him in there. Oh, you got to vote for Joe. I know we rigged the primary again, but you got to vote for Joe. Joe, I know, is really fucked up and all that, but we got to vote for him again because Trump is going to get in again and he'll make it even worse. I think that they're running out of ways to spin the bullshit to people.
Well, let me take it a step further. Okay. I believe that they manufacture consent, and that's a bipartisan manufacturing of consent. If you don't have the volleyball between Democrats and Republicans threatening silly things that get people excited and hot and bothered, okay, then people will start focusing on what matters, okay? But sadly, people are absolutely smitten with the idea of vote blue no matter who, vote for Pedro, vote for Summer. They have this weird fetish about putting I just voted on their forehead.
Good reference there. Good reference.
They always, yes, there's some perverse reason. And I can tell you what it is. The idea that I can vote away these problems is so intoxicating to people because it's like knowing that if I go to sleep tonight, the demon under the bed is going to come out. So if I just keep my eyes open the whole time, the demon won't get me. And in this case, they figure if I just vote, I have a chance. I'm going to win. It'll be okay. But in reality, what I have learned over a long period of time of doing these kinds of truth telling and getting bludgeoned for being ahead of the curve, we are literally experiencing a placebo effect from voting. The vote itself would have no impact. Everybody says, what do you think? Trump is going to do it differently? No, I think he's going to do exactly what the handlers above, the people that every once in a while come out of the shadows, wave high, and go back to sleep. I don't believe these elections have any whatever. And on the off chance that you do believe that, it's fine. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong, although I believe you're wrong. What I would suggest to you is that ultimately there will be another layer, a parliamentarian, a rotating villain. There's going to be something there that prevents anything from meaningfully happening. And it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It really should matter that you don't like it. You really should be ready to take action. But ultimately, what are they doing? You've got Cop City. You've got all the militarized police that you see using all their new toys, trained by IDF, trained to literally torment and torture the people that they're looking at. 70-year-old women and 65-year-old professors getting booted down by jackbooted thugs, brown shirts, okay? Seeing the pigs doing what they've been doing and knowing full well the history of policing. I live in Pennsylvania. This is where the first police were. The coal miners of Reading and Shamokin Dam and Allentown and all the areas through where I'm at. The police were kind enough to be created to shut down a mining revolt. And they went ahead and by gunpoint killed these miners and said, get your ass back to work. That is the history of policing in America, and it's only gotten worse since. You look at the history of everything that happened after the Civil War, and you see the idea of vagrancy laws and laws put on the books to say, okay, the slaves are free, but not really. And they have all these things. They've done this forever, from the dawn of time, going back to the Mexican-American War. I mean, we are watching history, and if your eyes are open, and most people aren't, because when I talk, people are like, what this fucker talking about? He doesn't know his ass from his elbow. You just got to vote for Joe Biden because Trump or some bullshit, right? But I'm telling you right now, they are flexing out to show you what you've got over there. If you're a software developer or an entrepreneur of any kind, what they've got going on in Israel, in Gaza right now, is an open air test scenario of all these different weapons and ideas. AI, using that to kill people, literally AI bombs. And some of the things that have been reported out of there, like using crying baby sounds to bring people out of hiding and then sniping them. Unbelievable amounts of evil going on over there. But they're showing us, hey guys, did you think we were sleeping at the wheel? No, 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 no. We have armed our police forces to the gills, to the point where it looks like you're watching a Desert Storm movie happening right here in the U.S. Because, you know, they can't bring the military against us. So what do? They bring the police force against us, dressed like the military, with the same military gear, the same military trucks, the same military weapons, everything. Okay. And they are literally without any, they're not even blushing. They're literally crushing people. And this right here is from the Uni Party. And I want to make it really clear that the idea of manufacturing consent is what the actual political process is all about. And that's why they can control the narrative. And that's why old shit Romney and freaking Blinken were sitting there amazed that, oh my God, TikTok got past us somehow or another. Oh my God, how are they doing? But see, we've got too many normie friends, too many friends that watch MSNBC, listen to these Mehdi Hassans and others that for a 5 minutes, you're like, yes, he gets it. And you know, in any minute now, he'll be like, but we got to vote for Biden because what do you want, Trump? Any minute now, you're waiting for it because these folks live for that world. That's their world. They want it to stay that way. And anything that threatens their illusion and delusion, they fight back and they hate and they won't listen to. And it's important to know that because we're not going to do anything about what you're seeing happening right now until we accept the fact that you voted for this man. You voted for these people. You didn't vote for genocide, but genocide you got anyway. And you didn't vote for jackbooted thugs coming on campuses, but Biden and friends and all of them, the Uni Party has been funding and funding and funding the militarization of our police forces throughout this country for decades now. And now we're seeing the chickens come home to roost, so to speak. And we are still thinking we can vote our way there. I hate to say this, but the other part of the working class, the maggots, the right wing, those folks, what they have done is they have said, hey, we're going to fight back. We're wrong. We're going to be angry about a lot of the wrong things. We're going to blame the wrong things. We're going to target immigrants. We're going to target homosexuals, and we're going to target, people that are different, mentally retarded or autistic, and we're going to mock them, and we're going to laugh at them, and we're going to shame them. We're going to claim anybody that has a conscience as woke, and we got to get rid of these woke bastards. Or what? Maybe they're going to do that, but they at least realize that most of them are starting to realize that this entire situation is a farce. And so they're ready to have a revolution of sorts of their own. Oh, yeah. And what happened with January 6th? Think about it. January 6th, the Democratic Party, not the left, the Democratic Party went ballistic trying to make it out to be an insurrection, make it out to be all these things, not because they knew it wasn't that. They knew that they were able to quell it without any issue whatsoever. What they were expecting and what they're seeing now is all the things that come down the pipe, austerity measures, genocide in Gaza, more war, more cuts to spending, more bad living, okay? And they're going to have police everywhere ready to take us out. And they've made laws and stuff like that. Oh my God, what do you want, Trump? And they've used these laws to now crack down on the most basic thing, the right to protest. So you're watching this courtesy of the parasites that were like, but Donnie Tiny Hands must be in prison. We got to go after Donnie Tiny Hands, Orange Genie, Orange Julius, whatever. And that psychotic Trump derangement has cost all of us that had a brain to now suffer and to have to deal with cleaning up the shit that they overemphasized Trump on. And now we don't have anything. They've geared everything up to stop Trump, but it really works to stop us from being able to stop a genocide, to be able to stop any of this shit. And you know what? We're going to have to figure that one out, because if we don't wake them up, they're going to continue to be the thing that MLK Jr. warned us about.
And that's a great point. And this is something that I think a lot of people really don't understand and don't fathom. And I know you got to go shortly, so we're going to play. I am going to read your tweet. I'm going to read it to the audience when you go. But I have to address this clip, because this is the thing that I think a lot of people, particularly the liberal class, and you have said time and again on this show, and rightfully so, that if you don't think that Democrats are worse than Republicans when it comes to protecting empire, I don't know what you're looking at, because the Republicans, at least on their side, they are willing to just basically burn it all to the ground, and whatever it will result in after the fact. And I'm talking more about the libertarian conservative types. I'm not necessarily talking about the GOPers, the Ted Cruzes and the Mitch McConnells of the world, if you will. But what I am talking about is this idea that when the Democrats are in power, they want to give you just enough crumbs to make you think that this current system is salvageable in some way, that it doesn't actually need to change, that if we just give them a little something, they're going to feel like it's worth fighting for. And I think the people of a certain age and disposition, especially a certain position in society, are much more comfortable. And especially since the elites have so much money to throw at people to get them to say, now say this, this, and this, especially about what's going on over there. But how do you rationalize the fact that we talk all the time about how there is a crisis at the border, and yet somehow in San Diego, they were able to bring up Border Patrol to UC San Diego because you had protesters for Free Palestine on the campus, and they were such a threat, they were so dangerous that they had to bring up Border Patrol agents. Let's play the clip real quick. We'll comment, and then I know you got to go. They turn their own, and there are those who say that they were trying to make this argument recently about what's going on in Texas and how, well, President Biden doesn't have anything to do with that. That's all about Governor Abbott, and it's his problem. Oh, yeah? Well, this is Governor Newsom's problem, and you see what they're doing there. This is even worse. So how are you going to justify this one? They're the ones that hang on for dear life.
Just in the spirit of speeding through from my side, because I do have to go in a moment, I want to make this point. I'm not in any way, shape, or form supportive of Donald Trump. I'm not that worthless shit stain that sits there and goes party first. Oh, I'm
totally supporting, mate. You're totally supporting.
I'm looking at a uni party. My goal is to end genocide. Okay.
Yeah.
My goal is to get rid of student debt. My goal is to ensure everyone has health care. My goal is to ensure everyone has a home. My goal are to ensure that everyone is dealing with economic freedom and economic justice and not worrying about, losing their right to speech and losing their right to assemble and actually having a democracy to defend. But these low-hanging fruit people that actually believe that they're voting for Biden or stopping Trump and all this stuff, it is the most pathetic. Like, this is the stuff TikTok needs to deal with, not just the genocide. Meg, if we actually conveyed the truth about elections and the truth about manufacturing consent and the way that the state apparatus that is MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all that stuff, these folks are doing their job to keep our eyes off of the important prizes. And but wait till Trump. Well, guess what? You got a genocide going on right now. I'm sure we have not witnessed over the last 30 years, things get progressively worse each administration. So I imagine Donald Trump will be horrible. I don't doubt that for a minute. And you know what? Unlike you all during Biden, I'll be fighting Trump too. Why? Because I'm not a loser. I'm literally fighting for the causes, not the parties. But because people are so party driven that they refuse to see This guy Biden is not there for your children. He is not there for your family. He is not there for the working class. And neither is Donald Trump. But unfortunately, because of this pathetic partisanship, instead of class war, we have this bullshit death by 1,000 paper cuts. And we are going to literally lose horribly. The balkanization of the working class into tiny little micro slices is killing us. And these people that literally think Donald Trump is a piker. And the grand scheme of thieves and the grand scheme of freaking crooks, he's a piker. He's low-hanging fruit compared. Just because he was president, big fucking deal. I mean, this is a guy who's a piker, a small bit guy. He is not the billionaire. He is just a regular freaking scumbag shyster, random shyster, okay? But because he knows that his pathway forward is to piss off shit libs, and his gang loves pissing off shit libs. There's nothing more exciting than fighting the woke. We got to go.
And that's why Bill Maher gives them all the cannon fodder he can.
Yeah, the woke. We're going after the woke. And then the others are like, we got to go after Trump. Oh my God. And all the while, Biden's like got his ice cream cone. Hey, Jack, we got some Palestinians to off, you know? But Biden's a better, his taste of genocide's a little bit better. It's got more chocolate syrup on it. I don't know what the fuck they're looking for, but at the end of the day, it's pathetic. And until we eradicate defending any public servant, that these people are literally props and marionettes to a larger political game. And that's why when they're saying we can't control the narrative, how do we control the narrative? Oh my God, TikTok, it's controlling the narrative. Folks, that is not a uni-issue thing. That is every fucking issue. They're just happen to see that it's penetrating through their MSNBC campaign, their CNN campaign, their all the other bullshit. You know, it was mind-blowing when a 6-year-old little girl was called a Palestinian woman was killed. A 6-year-old child, okay? We are seeing people literally buried alive, hands tied, buried alive. And you're like, but what about Trump? It'll be worse when Trump is here. There'll be no Palestinians by the time Trump is here at this
How
rate.
does Casey Hunt live with herself saying what she said?
I'm sorry, who?
How does Casey Hunt live with herself knowing that she said what she said? Oh, a 6-year-old is a woman, as if it's like, you know what you're saying. You know what you're saying. You're saying propaganda. You know that these are innocent children that are being massacred every single day. I mean, is the money that good and that? I mean, I know the money's good, but you will never be able to wash your hands of this. You will never be able to do it. You know, I'm not a fan of Mehdi Hassan. You know, he is an opportunist like anybody else, but because it ultimately affected, you know, again, this is like the old adage about how it's like the Republican thing where it's not a problem until it's your problem. Like I don't like gays until one of my kids is gay. And it's just the same thing with Mehdi.
Just imagine for us having to count on these people that are all about Donnie Tiny Hands in order to survive, right? Instead of fighting the entire system, instead of uniting as the working class, they're more content because they're so weirdly myopic, so unable to see the big picture. They're so trapped in the prison of the propaganda. And again, this is not, at no point in time in this conversation have I ever said one single good thing about Donald Trump. Have I, Pete? I mean, for real, have I said a good thing about Donald Trump? Not a single fucking thing. What I'm doing is leveling up.
Yes, but what we have is, listen, I don't disparage, I don't disparage, you don't like my music, a dirt bagel, all the, listen, everyone is entitled to stand on ceremony wherever they feel comfortable, because the truth is a lot of people are scared, and rightfully so. This is a very, very scary time in our nation's history. You would really have to be blind not to realize that all of this is crumbling apart at the seams at every minute. And what I would implore people to recognize is this. Do you really think things are going to get better anytime soon? Or are they going to get worse? Because they're getting worse, and they're going to get a lot worse. because there is no stopping this. They just invaded Rafah. This is a genocide on an incredibly insane scale now. They're
Damn you,
kill
Trump!
Kids. But it's Trump, and that's the thing. It's not a question of whether Trump gets in there or not. It's a question of, do you want to participate in what's going on? There are people that want to pretend that they are not a part of this. If there's one thing that your vote does make you a part of, if there is a vote of consequence, it's knowing that there is a substantially consequential circumstance that is staring you in the face, and you want to pretend like you're not part of it, or that somehow if you find the other rational reasons. Listen, if Joe was having a somewhat productive presidency, even then I would still say this is insane and this is a bridge too far. But you're trying to defend a presidency that is a colossal failure on every level. Did they do a couple of good things? Certainly. But that doesn't outweigh the bad. That doesn't outweigh the fact that cost of living is absolutely out of control, that our health care is non-existent. We have endless war. The planet's on fire. Poisoned water everywhere, including people who insist that the water in Flint, Michigan, for example, is now safe, which is unreal because this is all about politics. And I guarantee you, if Trump was there, it's no different than at the end of Trump's presidency when the vaccine became official and they said, well, I wouldn't take that vaccine. And the second Joe wins, got to go take that vaccine. I'm telling you, the fucking game is, it's right there. It's right there for you to, it's right in your face. You just have to be willing to grab it. Now, I'm not saying go out there and vote for RFK because he's right up Shmuley's ass.
They're all bad. Dude, it's fake, man. Come on, guys. It's bullshit.
The only way we're getting out of this, I say this to everyone who supports our efforts in the chat. I say this to everyone who isn't supporting it. There is only one way out of this. There has to be a labor uprising in this country. That is the only way out. There is no other way, and you can continue to play this game. I have made a conscious decision as somebody who competes economically in the most capitalist arena in our economy outside of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, and that's commercial real estate, which of course gets tied into that anyway. I will not do business with Israelis under any circumstances. And I've had to cut ties with a lot of them over the past several months. They control a lot of real estate in this country and around the world. And you can either choose to have a conscience, even in the system that we're in that's broken, or you can choose to capitulate to the system as it stands today. I won't be capitulating at all. Will it cost me income? Absolutely it will. But I cannot live with myself if I play along with that shit. And somebody like Casey Hunt, who refers to a 6-year-old as an adult, is capitulating because for her, the money and the career is more important than her conscience, of which she doesn't have one. And that's the bottom line. Did you have fun today?
I did. You know, I do. I got to tell you, I do get frustrated by being lectured by shitlibs that sit there and try and tell me about Trump as if I haven't been alive. I'm 55. I've watched the shit happen. I understand how horrible Trump is, but I hate the fact that they pretend like Biden isn't literally funding the slaughter of millions and literally watching the police do this to students and teachers. I've had enough of the shitlib. I've had enough of them not looking both directions.
Double K is the only one who has ever made a valid argument about why having Biden could be preferential to Trump. Again, it's not enough, but at least it is a plausible reason, and that is the NLRB and the value that having some semblance of a labor movement is there. But guess what? It's not enough. It's not anything that you can look at and say, this is what's going to change the narrative, because at the end of the day, Biden still broke a strike. He broke the railroad strike. There is no coming back from that. Oh, well. That is something that hasn't been done since Reagan. That is on a completely other level in terms of stopping the labor movement. Now, again, I think we're in this position right now where this system that has been choking itself to death for the past several years is on its last legs. How it's going to materialize post whatever it's going to be, I don't know. But what I do know is that we only have ourselves in the working class because, let's face it, 90 to 95% of us are now working class. That is what it is.
One final point to take me out, please. Let me say this one thing because I gotta go. The one thing I would say is we have the First Amendment. That's the right to free speech, assembly, etc. No. But we don't. We don't is the point, and we don't under Joe Biden. So this NLRB thing, when I talk to union leaders, and by the way, I talked to him. Got David Van Dusen, who is the freaking former president of the Vermont AFL-CIO. I've talked to Joe Burns, who wrote Class Struggle Unionism. I talked to Sarah Nelson, who is the head of the airline. I've talked to all of these people, okay? And I read all of their books, and I bring them on, and I talk at length to them. The fact of the matter is the only strike, there's no such thing as an illegal strike. There's only an unsuccessful one. People have the right to work together and do whatever. And you know what? The problem is we're looking for permission. We're looking for permission from the master to have a strike, to have a union. We're looking for permission. And this is the problem with the curtsying. Oh, please, sir, perchance might have permission
Is this protest acceptable for your terms?
Yeah,
Can we protest this way?
Are you good? Here's my action plan. Are you good with my protest? You don't like that? I'm telling you right now, we've got to stop bending the knee and asking permission. This is the thing. And that's where we part ways, right? That whole thing of, well, the NLRB. Dude, you are watching the same police that will crack down on a strike, crack down on students and teachers right here in your face. I beg of you all, please, the Tooth Fairy isn't real. The Easter Bunny isn't real. Santa Claus isn't real. And neither is this fucking bullshit election crap that keeps getting thrown our way. I got to go, brother. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Always welcome. I'm sure we'll talk again real soon.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Adios. And again, the passion is real. The fear is real. But look, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. That's what you need. And I'm not here to tell you guys that you're wrong. Now, the more appropriate approach to this statement is not, none of this will be solved by not voting for Biden. It's absurd nonsense. I disagree. I disagree because what is happening right now, this aiding and abetting of a genocide that is now taking on a substantially, insanely unforgivable level of depravity with the invasion of Rafah. If you can live with that, that's fine, but I can't. I can tell you you're wrong. But I can tell you that, and you may be right. Maybe Trump will make it worse. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm going to continue to do what has been the machination of what this channel's been about, what it will continue to be about, what Jen is doing, and so forth. We can control what we can control. In the state of Florida, this state is going to go to Donald Trump. If he's, assuming he's on the ballot, assuming he's not in prison. But then again, even if he's in prison, he probably would still do pretty well. It is pretty amazing when you think about it. And Kami John, thanks for tuning in. Okay. So that explains why Grumbine had to take off. But I appreciate him coming on today. And these conversations are very important. I want you all to understand that I respect everyone's opinion, even if I don't agree. I would say that the only opinion that I don't respect are those that are paid influencers, people that don't really believe necessarily what they're saying, but they're doing it for the money. Casey Hunt refers to a 6-year-old Palestinian child who was blown to smithereens as an adult. That's deliberate. That's a choice. She chose to do that. Could she have said, I'm not going to say this? Of course. Could she have been reprimanded? Could it have potentially cost her her job? Maybe. But at what cost? At what cost can you live with yourself knowing that what you're doing is aiding and abetting a genocide? And that's just one aspect of it. As far as I'm concerned, our actions on a grander scale are causing a similar circumstance to the Ukrainian people, because we have to have Russia as an enemy. We cannot broker peace, cannot settle disputes without violence. NATO is just an armchair of the war machine. And UN is just completely feckless. And now, this latest defense bill that got spent, now you got billions of dollars going to Taiwan. And wait till that shit starts. Wait till you really want to go fisticuffs with China, especially now? It's not going to end well. It's only going to get worse. The Senator from Vermont has announced that he is going to run again for the U.S. Senate, and he is going to be 88 years old, almost 89 by the time he gets out of the Senate. Now, I will say this about Bernie, and I will always love him and I will always support him for the most part. He at least is able, body and mind, to serve in politics. He is old, but he is at least cognitively and for the most part, as it would appear, physically capable of doing the job. Whereas for a lot of people that are there, especially those of that age on both sides, granted, it does seem to be more on the Democratic side than the Republican side, it is a problem. These lifer politicians. Now, I do believe that part of Bernie's I think from Bernie's perspective, he just sees it as when he's ready to step away, he's going to step away on his terms. He's not ready to step away. Is he going to go until he's 88? I don't think so. I could see a scenario where, especially if Trump wins and there's going to be some type of reshifting of sorts within the, I guess, the working class movement, whatever that's going to look like, that he wants to try to see, at least take one more shot at potentially being the guy who helps facilitate getting whoever that person, if they are even there, because I don't think AOC is capable of being that person. I just don't. I don't, as a national candidate, I don't think I can take Alex that seriously. I mean, if she's the person that's there, I would probably support her. I generally think that there are going to be potentially others, especially in the left movement. I mean, for me, I want to see somebody like Sean Fain, the leader of the UAW. I want to see him run for president. And I would love to see him do it as an independent. I don't think he would. He would probably do it as a Democrat if he even did it. But the point is, that's the type of person where it would be, very likely that something like that would happen. Andrew, we will agree to disagree. I do not believe that Elizabeth Warren is a good politician, and I don't believe that she's progressive. But that's my opinion. That's where I stand. I don't think she's terrible. I think there are certain things that she works on that are good. And I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater per se. But I think we have to become much more hardened in what we believe, and that we aren't going to stand on ceremony and say, well, we're just going to accept that that's what's there. This system is broken. It's broken beyond repair. And at what point do we just conscientiously say that enough is enough? Because enough is enough. I know I have taken my lumps, and there are times that I felt that I was backed into a corner. And it's not a question of, making perfect the enemy of the good. That's not what it is. What we have here, again, you can say that it's my fault, but as I've told you already, and I will continue to tell you, I'm not playing this game anymore. There is no blame. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, which I did in 2020. I won't vote for him. And I'm not voting for Donald Trump. My vote will go where it's going to go. I will vote, even though it's not really going to make a difference. In the grand scheme of things, the only time your vote really makes a difference is at the local level. That's where it makes a difference. In your city council, county commission, mayoral, and potentially congressional. And we have a very big congressional race coming up down here, and that matters. And that is something where we could actually sink our teeth into and make a difference. We're not making a difference in terms of whether or not Trump or Biden wins the presidency in November. That's not happening. You don't have that kind of bandwidth or impact in order to do it. Andrew, I believe you're in Canada, so you can't vote. And I believe, Dirk Biggle, you're in Colorado, which is a state that's going to go blue. And I'm in Florida, which is a state that's going to go red. And for states that have electoral consequence, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, that's where a lot of this is going to get decided. And we'll see where the breaks happen. But I cannot. Giuseppe, interesting question. I will pull that up real quick. I think the biggest problem with people that are in the ruling class is that they are not savvy with people in general. They live in a very secluded bubble, and they cannot identify or connect with regular people in society. You know, that's just where I'm at. And no, Double K, that's not what it is. It's not a purity test. You can't, if genocide isn't a line, then I don't know what is. Where's the line? When is enough enough? When do you say that my vote cannot be taken for granted? Or that the people have the power? One person can't do it, but millions can. And you are in a state of consequence in Wisconsin. So we'll see what happens there. But remember, the onus is not on the individuals like ourselves. The onus is on the people to move the needle with those that are in power. And if they don't, then clearly they don't care enough to make a difference. Just as President Biden has said, I don't care about the protesting on campuses. I'm not changing my position on Israel. I'm continuing to go along with what's happening. To me, that's a sign. And that's a sign where we have to be more vigilant in how we approach this and how we address it. That's a very good point. And I would never tell anybody how to vote. I'm just telling people that I'm not voting for Joe. That's all. If you want to vote for Joe, that's your choice. I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to tell you that you're a terrible person. You're doing what you think is best. And that's fine. That's how it is. Everyone should, at the very least, and this goes for people that vote for Trump, everyone should be respected at a minimum for at least participating. We have a very big problem in this country where half the country doesn't vote. So if anything, the anger needs to be placed in that direction. We have an even bigger problem when it comes to voting in primaries. Where I am here in South Florida, the average turnout in a congressional primary is about 15 to maybe 17% of the vote. That's very low. That's scary low, that the participation is that dreadful. It shouldn't be that way. Imagine how effective some of these elections would be if we actually had voter turnout in the 30 to 35% range, which again is dreadful in that regard. But imagine how much of an impact we would have. I would like to know how voter turnout is in other parts of the country, but from everything I hear, voter turnout, especially in primaries and especially in local primaries, is dreadfully low. And I do believe that a lot of that is deliberate. Now, one thing I want to mention before we go, very important. Now, this is something that Steve put up earlier, and I want you guys to all hear it because this is very poignant and effective. If I ask you how the next war will be funded, the answer is Congress will vote on a defense bill and authorize spending, not taxpayer dollars. So if I ask you, how will we pay for Medicare for all? What do you suppose is the answer? The answer is Congress will vote on a Medicare for All bill and authorize the spending, not taxpayer dollars. If I ask you how will we keep the states out of bankruptcy and keep paychecks coming in for every working American and basic income payments for those without, how will that be funded? The answer is Congress will vote on a nationalized payroll bill and authorize spending, not taxpayer dollars. If I ask you how will we pay for free college and cancel student debt, how do you fund it? The answer, Congress will vote on a free college and student debt cancellation bill and authorize spending, not taxpayer dollars. If I ask you how we can expand Social Security to serve as a basic income for those who do not wish to take part in a federally funded voluntary job guarantee program, how would we fund each of these initiatives? The answer is Congress will vote on a job guarantee and expand Social Security bill and authorize spending, not taxpayer dollars, not even FICA. In fact, let's cancel FICA altogether. Do you get it? If someone asks you how the federal government can afford to keep the economy going during a pandemic and keep everyone safe from capitalist greed, how would you answer it? The answer is Congress will vote on a pandemic relief bill and authorize spending, not taxpayer dollars. And that's how this works. I hope you guys are understanding that there's many, many things at play here. The Heritage Foundation is one of several, and there are different things that are done. Remember, the vote is suppressed by the GOP in general elections. The vote is suppressed by the Democrats in primaries. And that's how it works. So you can never just point the finger in one direction. There are these think tanks and these, again, these are guardians of empire. That is what we have. We have guardians of empire. And it pays very, very well. Very well. Again, this alludes to the point we were making before about Casey Hunt and why she says what she says on MSNBC. Because it pays to lie. And it pays very well. Not a lot of people are willing to turn the other way. They're just not. On top of everything else, I'm in an industry where I have to make decisions that are based on moral clarity because I'd like to think that I have a moral compass. I can't say one thing and then do something else. If I were to say that I can't support the president because of his support of genocide, among other reasons, then I would be a total hypocrite if I was going out there and doing business with people who actually give money. There is a person, I won't say their name, but let's just say that they own a lot of multifamily buildings in Broward County, Florida. And I was connected to this person who is very wealthy, influential, and powerful. And the last conversation that I had with them went like this. I asked them if their family's okay because I know that they have family over in Israel. And they said, yeah, thank you for asking. I'm thinking about giving $1 million to the IDF. That was the last time I spoke to them. And it was a relief. I can't work with somebody like that. How could I? I can't. I couldn't live with myself, knowing that that's where that person is sending their money. They're sending their money to kill 6-year-old kids. At some point, we have to recognize again that this is a war of attrition, that our system is collapsing. And once it does, we have to figure out how we're going to make it, whole again. And the only way that's going to happen is with a unified labor movement. That is it. Everything else is a waste of time, a waste of energy. And I hope some of you, many of you who will see this and hear this and will share it, will continue to spread that message because it is important. Danny Wyndham, you don't like my music? Dirt Bagel Elfist, Giuseppe, Double K. And speaking of Double K, I can't address the message, but what Double K chose to do instead of contributing to this channel today is certainly something that is welcomed as well if you choose to do it. Mark Fabian. Richard. Don't know if you're new or not, but happy to have you here. Jimmy Zimzam, great to see you. Sam Stan. Excuse me. Of course, Steve. Was great to have him here today. It's great to have all of you MMTers and other supporters here today for this very lively conversation. 86 Blackberry White, Flock Bay, VA from NY. A lot of familiar faces. Flock Bay, Ray J, Tony Clifton, one of Jen's favorites. Maradina Wilcuts. Who else? Jonathan Cademan, great to see you. Shane C, Jules, Tony D. Of course, Teresa, who is as generous and as special and sweet as anybody we have on this channel. You guys are all great. We appreciate you all. Thursday, don't know the time yet, but Thursday, with none other than Jordan Chariton of Status Quo News. Lord knows we're going to have a hell of a lot to talk about. And just so you know, and since I'm not gratuitous in any way, today is my birthday. I'm actually 41 today. And for those of you who are thinking of potentially contributing or chipping in, doing any of that, follow Double K's message. That's what I would ask you to do. Don't feel that you need to do something for the channel. Just follow what Double K did. That's what I ask. That's a birthday gift to me. If you want to do me a solid, that's what I would ask of each of you. Because that is money well spent. And for those of you who are looking to get involved with obviously what's going on down here, again, I can't say much, but just know that we're gearing up. It's going to be great. But in the meantime, like I said, this Dirt Bagel, guess what? You share your birthday with none other than Jen Perlman. So there you go. Don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to do something for Jen's birthday on the 14th. So I also share my birthday with George Clooney. George Clooney, Willie Mays, Chris Paul from the NBA. There's a few people that I share my birthday with. Adrienne Palicki, that tall, blonde, pretty actress. Share my birthday with her. Yeah, like I said, much appreciated to all of you. So yes, for anybody who is thinking of supporting us in conjunction with what I'm doing, like I said, you all know where to go, so I don't have to direct you there. But feel free to, in my name for my birthday, that is what I ask. And appreciate you all. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We'll see you Thursday.